So now we'll continue from text number 6. Karmani karmabhi kurvan sa nimittani deha bhret tat tat karma phalam grahanan brahmatiha sukhetaram. So now further he is saying, impelled by deep-rooted material desires, the embodied living entity engages his active sense organs in fruitive activities. He then experiences the results of his material actions by wandering throughout this world in so-called happiness and distress. So here it is mentioned that why a living entity wanders in this universe, why he goes in the cycle of birth and death. Because of deep material desires, what he does, he engages in the fruitive activities. And because of these fruitive activities, he has to take birth and again in so many bodies. So one place Kunti Maharani also says, Avidya Kam Karma Bhi. So people are very active, people are working hard. Why? Kama, because of material desires. And why they have deep rooted material desires? Avidya, because of ignorance. So because of ignorance, people have material desires. And because of material desires, they are working very hard. And what they get as a result? They get different bodies. They continue in the cycle of birth and death. So we see in this material world, practically anyone who is working, who is active. So the reason behind his activeness is that he has material desire. In the material world, if we see a person keeping one foot like this, then we should understand material desire he has. Any form of action in the material world is a sign that he has material desire. So you ask him, Prabhu, what happened? Why you are stepping like this? Pav bhaji khana hai. Why you have booked ticket? उससे मिलने जाना है. Any action in the material world is a sign of material desire. Same way in the spiritual sky, when we see any action in the spiritual world, when we see a devotee stepping like this, and if you ask him, what happened, Prabhu? Oh, that service I have to do. So in the spiritual world, action is a representative of service. Whereas in the material world, all actions are representative of material desires. When Prabhupada was in New York and he saw big palatial buildings, and Prabhupada was on a morning walk. So then Prabhupada, he told to his disciples that it seems here ladies are very beautiful. So disciples were not able to understand why Prabhupada is saying like this. Then Prabhupada said, why? Because people are working so hard here. And then he makes a very important statement that impetus for economic development comes from this attraction for sex life. You read that statement of Prabhupada? And first time I had read, it was difficult for me to understand why it is so. See, attraction for women is the impetus for economic development. Housing and many other things meant for living comfortably in this material world. Digging up the earth to make a way out for the sea goat was a laborious task. So basically, Prabhupada is telling whatever development we see is happening because of attraction for the woman. When Brahmaji he created creation, secondary creation, primary creation was done by the Supreme Lord. Then Brahmaji saw that people are not very active. They are happy in themselves. There is no so much activeness to do something in the material world. And then when Sambhu, Manu and Satrupa were born, when the female came in the picture, then Brahmaji saw that now I don't have to worry only. Pune people are going to Bombay, Bombay people are going to Pune, Indians are going to America. Everyone is so active just by bringing a female species. So that is attraction. Before this, there were sages, but there were no female species. So they were very calm, peaceful in goodness. Brahma was telling that please populate. They said, oh, our speed is this much only. We cannot populate more than this. So we see attraction for women is the impetus for economic development. In the villages also, if some boy is dull, is not very active, then what they do is they make him marry. And once the marriage is done and once the wife comes, then you'll find him going out, searching job, working hard. Why? Because now woman has come. And we have seen so many people before, they were carefree, they were not so much active. Once they are married, they become very active. And, so why? Because of the deep rooted material desires. Avidya kama karma bhi. But if a person works very hard to fulfill his material desires, then what happens is he further continues his journey in the material world. He is entangled further in the cycle of birth and death. And this combination of desires and action, desires and action, desires and action perpetuates our existence in the material world. And what he gets by trying to act on our material desire, happiness and distress, happiness and distress, happiness and distress. So we see all people in the world, they are working very hard and they have some kind of happiness that I am able to do something. But then there is so much distress also involved, is it not? Any action in the material world will always will have distress, as we discussed 2 days back. That material happiness means either misery or relative happiness or mixed happiness. So there is so much distress. Sometimes a person opens a factory and a company, but then the employees they go on a strike, or some employee is not coming only, or some employee came and took away the money. Is it not? Or some employee they did they were not properly active, so the product which came out was not of proper quality. So how much anxiety people, those who try to act in this world, they have to take, is it not? Even those who are students trying to study, how much anxiety, which questions will come in the paper, we don't know. Then placements, even the teachers who are teaching, they are in so much anxiety, correct? So every person who is working in this material world will have this happiness and distress. Especially in now, we see in IT sector so much anxiety. Anytime a company can leave, then the person will not have any job. So much anxiety after marriage also. Boy will take birth or girl will take birth. And after taking birth also, will he be healthy or will he have some problems like that? So we see that when a person tries to fulfill his material desires and he works very hard for that purpose, then he is encountered with so-called happiness and distress. Fruitive action means happiness and distress. Any action for that matter. So now here in the purport, it is mentioned that once a living entity gets a particular type of a body, then his free will is restricted to a great extent. Like suppose if a living entity gets a body of an animal, so now his free will is restricted to great extent. He can do certain type of things. He can have access to certain type of things. So why it is like this? So when a living entity misuses his desires, because desire means free will. When the living entity misuses the free will, then the free will is restricted because of his own decisions. And then beautiful analogy is given. Suppose you take a flight ticket to go from Delhi to Bombay. Now, who made this choice to take this ticket and travel by a plane from Delhi to Bombay? We have made it. Now, once we go inside the plane and plane takes off, now you cannot say, I don't want to go to Bombay. You have to go. But what freedom you have within the plane now? Okay, you don't quarrel with other passengers, you try to behave properly. So although now freedom is restricted, you have to have and you have to take this journey only. So like in an animal species also, freedom is restricted, or in human species also, freedom may be restricted. But within the restricted freedom also there is freedom. So inside the plane, if he behaves properly and if he does not quarrel, then peacefully he can go to another place and then there he can again have a choice. But suppose now inside the plane he quarrels with other staff and makes a huge drama, then instead of going to another place where he has more freedom, he'll be put behind the bars and more restriction of the freedom will happen. Correct? Same way, the way living entity misuses the desire, accordingly the freedom is restricted. But if he uses now free will very nicely, then again he'll be given an opportunity to have more choices in life. But if he further misuses, then he'll be further entangled. His freedom will be further restricted. So that is why a living entity, he has to understand that actually the kind of desires I have, the way I am trying to act very nicely to fulfill these desires, that is causing all the problems in my life. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying the influence of Maya is so strong that even in a hellish condition, the proud conditioned soul thinks that he is enjoying life. Even the insect which comes in the stool thinks by eating the stool that I am enjoying life. Means that is the level of illusory influence which living entity is under in. That's why we see that story of Indra becoming a pig. When Brahma is coming and Indra is telling, I am very happy here. Don't you see my family? Is it less than Swarga? Brahma is telling, come on, you are Devraj Indra. You are the king of all demigods. And why you are trapped here? Such a filthy place. You must come there. And Indra saying, no, I am so happy here. See, look at my wife. She is so beautiful. Look at my children. So even Brahma was bewildered, who in one way had created these illusory layers, that this is the influence of illusory energy. And that is a fact. Any place you go, people have a level of sense of satisfaction because of which they don't want to change that particular position. And on top of that basic satisfaction, they have distress. So people are unhappy, but if you tell them that why don't you come out of the situation? No, no, it's okay, it's okay. Because they have that basic level of satisfaction. No matter which species they take birth in. If you go to the place where people are staying in chawl, the slum areas, you'll find hardly they have any facilities. Still they are enjoying life. Whatever the facility they have, in that also they want to enjoy. And they are happy about it. So every place, everywhere a living entity gets that sense of satisfaction and he keeps trying to enjoy. And material energy gives them that kind of feeling that you are enjoying also. So can you imagine someone in a hellish planet also, he thinks that I'm enjoying. Means how much is the influence like that? So we see that the more material desires we have, more we try to fulfill them. And accordingly, we get more covered by the ignorance. We get more covered by the influence of material energy. And then very low desires also will appear to give us happiness. And just imagine if a person is having such level of ignorance that even in hell he's thinking that I'm enjoying, then where is the hope for him to understand about spiritual life? Same way in the material world also, those people who have very low desires because of their choices, now they are so much covered by the illusory energy. Now if we go to help them to become devotees, it's very difficult. Like suppose some boy in the college takes wrong decisions and then he starts drinking, starts smoking, starts having connection with many girls. Now if you go to help him to understand Bhagavad Gita, it's very difficult. That because of his choices, now he is covered further by the illusory energy of the Lord. So for him to understand all this is very difficult because the covering has become more strong and the material desires have become more deep rooted. He cannot think anything. These material desires, they blind us. He cannot think anything than to trying his best to fulfill those material desires. These material desires, they captivate and they cover all our consciousness. And only thing a person remembers is, I have to fulfill this, I have to fulfill this, I have to fulfill this. Of course, in the material world, uh, people glorify also having intense material desire. Yeah, there is a statement by APJ Abdul Kalam, no? हाँ, हाँ, सपना वो नहीं है जो रात को सो के देखा जाए, बट वो है जो सोने ना दे। हाँ, जो दिन में नहीं सोने दे, रात में ना सोने दे। And people feel, wow, I should also have intense material desire. But we can have intense greed for spiritual desires, but not for material desires. One time, one disciple asked Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, how come you are awake midnight translating books? How you are able to do this? So Prabhupada says that I intensely prayed to Krishna that please help me so that I can get up and have time for translation. So Krishna gave me strength. That's why I'm able to get up midnight. Right? So devotees also they have desires, but for pleasure of Krishna, for service of Krishna. Ladani Mataji, when she was given a service to make preparations for the deities, so she went to the deities and she prayed, my dear Lord, please help me, please empower me so that I can make nice preparations for your pleasure, for offering to you. And I promise you, I will never eat them myself. So then she started making such amazing preparations. So after offering to the deities, when other devotees would eat those preparations, they would feel that we have never eaten such preparations before. But Ladni Mataji, she never ate herself. So why she was given so much strength by Krishna? Because of her selfless desire to serve. So devotees also have this kind of desires, but they are spiritual desires. So having lollium, having greed, for spiritual desires that is encouraged, but for material desires that is discouraged. One has lot of intensity for material desire, then further and further he'll get entangled. Rupa says if someone is always thinking America, 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 and he may not have that much karma to take a human birth in America, then he may become a rat in America. And then in America they use, all chemicals to kill the rats. In India, at least they have some feelings, they may not kill. Obviously, now in India also people have started killing, but still. So you'll go there and then you'll be killed by American mosquito killer. So desires are deep rooted like this. And sometimes some desire, because super soul has to plan fulfillment of your desire. Sometimes we may have some desire 100 lives before, and Krishna is waiting to fulfill that desire, and he's waiting when the resources will be arranged. So whatever punya is required, whatever arrangement is required, once that is done, then Krishna will remind us, oh, you remember you had that desire, now fulfill it. Like that. So like that, these desires are very deep rooted. And time and again, our mind will bring us to that desire only. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. I need to have this. And there is no end. One desire you fulfill, it will multiply into many more. You fulfill one more desire, it will multiply into many more. Like initially in the 10th, you may have only desire somehow or other, if I get good marks, then that will be very nice. Then you get good marks. Then whether to take PCM, whether to take bio, whether to take commerce, what should I take? Then once you get into 11th, then you have somehow or other, if I get nice marks in 12th and if I get good college this month only, and then you get a good college, then you enter a college, then array, so many opportunities are here now. And then you get a desire, if only I get a good job in America, that will be very nice. Then you go to America, if only I can have Lucy or Meta to marry. Then you want to marry, oh, if only I can get a green card, oh, if only I can open my own company. So there is no end to material desires. You fulfill one desire, that means you are giving way to other desires. And like that, a person is entangled in the network of desires, in the struggle of fulfilling of those desires. And what he gets? Happiness and distress, happiness and distress. Right. So Prabhupada, he says, no, bhukti kami, siddhi kami, sakala asanta. Those who want to enjoy and those who want expertise or siddhis, they are sakala asanta. They are always unhappy. But Krishna Bhaktan is calm. The devotee of the Lord is having no desires. Ateva Santa. That's why he's very peaceful. And Srila Prabhupada was asked when he was about to leave this planet, Srila Prabhupada, do you have some last wish? Prabhupada said, Kuch ichha nahi. There was one person in America, he was from India and he had settled in America while he was young. So he was on deathbed, and in America they have this kind of culture. So they asked, "Do you have some last wish?" So then he told the doctors that while I was in India, so there was some special BD. So that BD I want to smoke before I leave. So they arranged by spending lot of money to come to India to go to a particular village and purchase that particular BD, not cigarette, BD. Then go to America and give him the BD, and by smoking that BD, he left the body. So, what kind of desires people have? And when we see people around enjoying, we get this kind of desires. I remember in my childhood, I was very much habituated to eat biscuits, and I would time and again ask my parents, biscuits, biscuit, biscuits, and they would give. But still, I would feel when I grow up, and when I'll have my own job, I'll fill one whole room with biscuit packets. Whole day and night I'll keep eating. Then I got into engineering, and first year of engineering only devotees came and they told we cannot eat anything from outside. Then I would feel, Arey, I had this desire. Then still, whenever we would go to temple, I would purchase cookies. So we see that how these desires they come in our system, and then always we are hankering for it, like that. There was one person in Bombay, he had a lot of desire to eat sweets, but he was very poor, so he was not able to afford. Later on, he started some business and he became a rich person. And he wanted to eat sweets now, but he got diabetes. But he had that desire, I want to eat sweets, I want to eat sweets, like that. So we see, whenever we see some enjoyment, whenever we see some sense object, then that registers as a desire in our system, is it not? We may be traveling, we may see a very beautiful car, then it registers, oh, if I can have this. When we go and we see some nice house, then it registers, oh, maybe ऐसा ही घर बनवाऊंगा. So like that, in the material world, which is surrounded by material objects, and when we interact with those material objects, when we are encountered with those material objects, then they come in our system as material desires. And if you're not very careful, then what happens is we think that, oh, this is very nice, and then we meditate on them. Dhyato vishwan pumsa sanga sanjayate kamaha. So Krishna says looking at the sense object is not material desire, but dhyato vishwan pumsa, when one starts contemplating on it, dhyato vishwan pumsa sanga sanjayate kama, then Krishna says that means you are associating with that sense object, and now you will have kama for that sense object, like that. So dhyato leads to kama. Before dhyato, all sense objects are a class for us. You might have studied, no, in your coding, class and object. So like cars, it is a class. So all cars are there, but you are not feeling any attraction. But then one particular car, you see it, and then you start liking it, and then you find that particular car, because of your dhyato, becomes an object now. Now wherever you are traveling, although so many cars may pass by, you will not give attention to them. But that particular car, if that car passes by, oh, you know why? Right? Why? Because now class has become object. And why class has become an object? Dhyayato Vishwan Pumsa Sangha Sanjayate has happened. Like so many girls are there in the college, no problem. All are respected girls. But then suppose one girl comes and talks sweetly. Oh Srinivas, how are you? Venkatramana. And then if Dhyayata Vishwan Pumsa happens, then Sangha Sanjayate Kama. Now, although all girls may go and pass by, will not get any attraction or attention. But if that particular girl comes, although she may be very far, suddenly eyes will go there. Correct? So Krishna is telling that's how we get material desire. Dhyayato Vishwan Pumsa. And when we are not devotees, we don't understand and we feel very happy to do dhyayato about material things. And in that way, we keep increasing material desires. We keep increasing material desires. Like this. So I remember when my father went to London for something. So he saw certain things, the way houses are made and all. So when he came, he was telling, मैं भी ऐसा ही घर बनाऊंगा. लंदन में खिड़की ऐसा होता है, लंदन में ये ऐसा होता है. So we see in the material consciousness, we don't understand that we are doing dhyato. Wherever we go, we see sense object, we get attraction for the sense object, and then dhyato vishwan pumsa. So that's why Vedic culture is to keep oneself away from the sense object. More we are away from the sense object, then that much less opportunity is there for dhyato. But in Kali Yuga, we are bombarded with sense object. So much advertisement is there. So much billboards are there. So much talk is going on. So not getting affected by material desires is very difficult. But at least we should see that we should not become personal with any sense object. If it becomes object, then it becomes very difficult. So like when we are giving a talk, suppose there is an audience where girls and boys both are sitting. So we move our head like this, equally to all the people, right? But suppose there is one particular girl and time and again we look at her only, then that becomes a object. Understood? But we should look all sense objects of this world like this only. But if you give your attention to one particular sense object, then it becomes kamaha. Then we'll work very hard. Like you go in a market sometime, you see so many laptops are there, no problem. But then you go near one laptop. बहुत स्लीक है, कितने का है? ये नया है, इसका नाम है HP Envy और 80,000 का है. ये ऐसे भी हो जाता है, ऐसे भी हो जाता है, अलग भी हो जाता है. और फिर वो ग्लोरीफाई करता है, सरवनम करते हैं हम लोग इसका. तो उसके बाद क्या होता है? ध्याय तो फिर आ जाते हैं तो रात में आता है वो, कितना अच्छा था, कितना अच्छा था, लेना है मेरे को, लेना है मेरे को. फिर पिताजी को कॉल जाएगा, पापा कोई पढ़ाई नहीं हो रही है यहाँ पर. क्या हो गया बेटा? अरे लैपटॉप ही अच्छा नहीं है, सब लोग इतने बड़े बड़े प्रोजेक्ट बना रहे हैं, कोडिंग कर रहे हैं, मेरा लैपटॉप ही हैंग हो जाता है. क्या चाहिए? नया लैपटॉप लेना पड़ेगा. कितने का आएगा? 80,000 का. इतना महंगा? अरे पापा बड़ा इंजीनियर बन रहा हूँ, छोटा मोटा थोड़ी ना बन रहा हूँ. माइक्रोसॉफ्ट में प्लेसमेंट होगा, अमेरिका में जाऊंगा, मुझे एनवी चाहिए. फिर फादर टेल्स, ठीक है. I remember in our college there was a culture, everyone would purchase heavy bikes only, TVS Apache, Pulsar, those days. And in our voice also there was one Sumit Kelkar Prabhu, now he is Samarpan Gopru now. So he was our PM, so he had blue Pulsar. And then Priyogan Prabhu purchased red Pulsar. And then I also got a desire to purchase Pulsar. So then I called my father, I told पापा अभी प्लेसमेंट का टाइम आ गया है और बहुत इधर उधर जाना पड़ता है तो बाइक जरूरी है. My father told okay. So my father told you can purchase Splendor. I told पापा Splendor, यहाँ पर कोई Splendor लेता ही नहीं है और यहाँ की जैसी रोड है बड़ी फास्ट है, Splendor चल नहीं पाएगा अच्छे तरीके से. Then my father told ठीक है आप ले लो. Then I went to the showroom to purchase. So then from there I called Premanapur. सो आई कॉल्ड हिम कि प्रभु जी वो मैं सोच रहा था बाइक खरीदने के लिए, प्रीचिंग में भी हेल्प करेगा। तो प्रभु जी बोले हाँ ठीक है ठीक है, तो कब खरीदोगे आप? मतलब प्रभु जी शोरूम में ही खड़ा हूँ। तो प्रभु जी बोले ठीक है, कौन सा खरीद रहे हो? अब प्रभु जी मैं सोच रहा था पल्सर ठीक रहेगा, पल्सर। प्रभु जी बोले तुम इतने पतले हो, पल्सर संभाल पाओगे? बोला नहीं प्रभु जी, वो तो बटन दबाना है, बाकी तो गाड़ी चलेगी। फिर प्रभु जी बोले देख लो, लेकिन 60 से ऊपर नहीं चलाना है। माई फादर ऑल्सो टोल्ड सेम, 60 से ऊपर नहीं चलाना है। एंड प्रभु जी ऑल्सो टोल्ड 60 से ऊपर नहीं चलाना। सो लाइक दैट वी गेट desires, right? And we see actually sometimes we become very mad to fulfill those desires also. So actually, most healthy situation is that we don't get these material desires. Like that. And if we are surrounded with people who have a lot of material desires, especially if we are surrounded with people who talk about these material desires, then that impact will be much more on us. You will find in our life whatever material desires we had till now, they are there because we took that kind of association. We associated with some wrong people, then they spoke about. Like now, why we have so much fondness for America? Because we have heard from so many people, correct? America is very special, America is very special. Why we have fondness for high paying job? Because we have heard in the college atmosphere, high paying job hona chahiye, wealth hona chahiye. All our relatives they talk about beta engineer ban, beta itna kama, beta ye kar, beta wo kar, correct? So because of which we see so many material desires we get, and we keep working hard to fulfill those material desires, and there is no end to it. Our whole life goes in fulfillment of these material desires. Although time goes, although our youth goes, our energy goes, but the material desires they don't. When Birbal was with Akbar, so once Akbar was telling, once someone has tried fulfilling all his material desires, when he becomes old, then he will not have any material desires. Birbal says, no, no, no. Material desires they never end. And then we see that how he told you call your young daughter and he'll go to meet a person who is about to die. And when they met that person who was about to die, so he was so weak, he was not able to lift his eyelids also. So then Birbal, he went and he lifted his eyelids and he told, see, Akbar has come. He said, oh, very nice. Thank you, thank you. And again his eyelids went down. And then Birbal told Akbar, now you can call upon your daughter. And then she came and she was coming, Chan, Chan, Chan. And then suddenly this old person who is about to leave his body, his head turned towards the direction and eyes opened. Then Akbar understood, Are Babre. These material desires are very deep rooted, very deep rooted. So we are very fortunate that at right time we came in association of devotees. Now we should not allow material desires to increase for us. And we should see that what material desires we have, we purify them, we remove them. And how it can happen, Prabhupada says, soul by nature is very active. So we cannot have a vacuum. We cannot become desireless, Prabhupada says. But we don't want material desires also. So what is the solution? Prabhupada says we have to cultivate spiritual desires. So when we cultivate spiritual desires, then material desires will go. So we have to cultivate spiritual desires. Till now we were living for the pleasure of ourselves. Now we have to live for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. We were working very hard for ourselves. Now we have to work very hard for Krishna. So like that we have to replace our material desires. It is mentioned about Amrish Maharaj that he replaced all his material desires by trying to fulfill the desires of the Supreme Lord. So what are the desires of the Supreme Lord? That his holy name should be spread all over. So if you work very hard to help other people to take the holy names of the Lord, that means now we are trying to fulfill the desire of the Supreme Lord. And then that becomes our desire. Krishna's desire becomes our desire. Or we may assist in Janmashtami festival. It is a festival of celebration of Krishna's glory. So in that way, we purify our desires. Other, it is very difficult. So many material desires. And the more we associate with materialistic people, more such desires we get. Sometimes our devotees, especially who are in GS, they want to take a simple job. But time and again their parents will say, क्या कर रहा है? क्या कर रहा है तो? यूपीएससी क्रैक कर, ये कर, वो कर. Because they have a lot of difficulty to understand like that. They feel, GRE निकाल, TOEFL निकाल, MS कर, US में जा. Like that they say. So we have to know that we don't have to increase these material desires. So in Prahlad Maharaj section, Dhruv Maharaj section also, he is saying that how persons who worship you simply for sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusory energy. See, these desires are so deep rooted that even when one comes to Krishna, he comes to Krishna for the fulfillment of his own desires only. If you tell him that, okay, come to God, he say, okay, I'll come to God. And then he comes to God and he opens the list. God says, why you came here? And he says, I came for this purpose. They told me you are supreme, please. So most of the people, even if they come to God, they have such a big list. In fact, they may be working more hard for Krishna consciousness, for fulfillment of those desires. Like when we go to Govardhan Parikrama, we walk and do. And there are people who are doing Dandvat Govardhan Parikrama, which is more harder. But if you go and ask, then they will have a list. Prabhu, someone wants a son, someone wants a job, someone wants some particular court case to come in their favor. So like that, they have material desires. In spite of having you, who are like desire tree, who can give liberation from birth and death, foolish persons such as me desire benediction from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in a hellish condition. So Dhruv Maharaj is telling that even when people they come to you who can award liberation, but they are so much captivated by material desires that even after coming to you, they ask for material desires. And what are these material desires? Same desire for sense gratification, which is available even in hellish conditions. All species, they are engaged in the same type of sense gratificatory activities. So he's telling that those who are intelligent, they will not do like this. Dhruv Maharaj repented because he had come to the Lord to render devotion service for material profit. He here condemns his attitude. Because Lord is like a desire tree. He can fulfill all desires. The happiness derived from the touch of skin or sensuous happiness is present even in the life of hogs and dogs, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. If you see the kind of desires which we have in the material world, ultimately are there to satisfy this body and which are available even for animals. If a devotee worships the Lord for such insignificant happiness, he must be considered devoid of all knowledge. So if a devotee is practicing spiritual life but is coming to Krishna for material desires, then gradual purification will happen. So two things will happen for him. One is purification will be gradual, because of which he will take much more time. Second is the purification will be painful. So he has to go through that pain and he has to go through that time. There is a second devotee who is doing spiritual life, but for him it is a kind of burden. He feels, I have to do it. So then for him, spiritual life will appear like boredom. Spiritual life will appear very heavy for him. There is a devotee who is coming to Krishna, may have material desires, but then he wants to surrender to Krishna, that Krishna, please purify me. I am suffering because of this material desire. These material desires, they are burning like fire in my heart. And you see, because of these material desires, we suffer. You might have seen a small child, how happy he is. Because no desires. Jo jahan mil gaya khush hai. But the moment we grow up to extent where we get material desires, you see our face changes. The natural happiness goes. Always think, है वो कब मिलेगा, ये कब मिलेगा, वो लेके चला गया. So envy and all this thing comes, right? So if a devotee comes to Krishna, surrenders to the Lord, that Lord, please purify me. These material desires I don't want. Then he will make a swift progress. So Prabhupada says, swift progress, gradual progress, and no progress. So swift progress will happen when? Yes, we are coming to Krishna for pleasure of Krishna without any expectations. Then swift progress. Gradual progress, where we come to Krishna for fulfilling material desires. See, Bharat Maharaj got attached to one deer, had to take 3 lives. And we may have so many deers. Then how many lives we will take? Right? For one deer, three life. How many deers you have, you calculate. And that many lives you have to take. And in case of Bharat Maharaj, after getting attached to one deer, he became so alert as Jad Bharat, is it not? In our case, even if we learn a lesson by becoming a deer, we will not become so alert as Jad Bharat. Again, as Jad Bharat, we may get attracted to another deer. Like that. So, devotee has to be very careful. Many times in a material consciousness, in a conditioned consciousness, what is a source of misery appears to be a source of happiness. Actually, material desires, they'll give misery. But in a conditioned state, it appears, no, they'll make me happy, I want this. But we see all the Vedic scriptures, Krishna, they are warning us, they are telling us, don't touch them. आग है वो जला देंगे. But then we are so hankering like a small child. Nah, I want that. And then material energy लगाती है. Third, अच्छा लगा. ठीक है, अभी थोड़ी देर बाद try कर. But a person never gives up, never gives up like that. And then Dhruv Maharaj is telling that, my Lord, if someone meditates on you, the transcendental bliss which he gets by hearing your glories is so much that it surpasses Brahmananda also. What to say of Jadananda? So he is telling why people don't aspire for loving service to your lotus feet, because they will get such more bigger, such amazing Ananda, which is far superior to even Brahmananda. And they are trying to enjoy, the dead matter pleasures of the material world. Just imagine if you see an insect inside a stool and is enjoying, and then suppose you are able to talk to him, and the insect is telling, प्रभु आओ ना, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, अभी अभी फ्रेश आया है. तो आप क्या बोलोगे उसको? अरे नारायण क्या है? Correct? But same way, when we try to enjoy in this material world with such healthy things of this world, when demigods they see humans, they see क्या गंदे हैं, छी, इनके शरीर से ही बदबू आता है, हर चीज 3 घंटा खाना रखा तो सड़ने लग जाता है. So they also feel the same way. That's why it is mentioned, when the demigods they come, they don't touch the ground. They feel it is like a garbage. In one place I was hearing, Radha Govind Maharaj was telling कि हेवन में जब लोग गाली देते हैं तो बोलते हैं, इससे अच्छा तो तू पृथ्वी पे जाके मनुष्य बन जा. कि उनकी गाली है. कि तू इतना गंदा, जैसे भारत में बोलते हैं ना गधे, तो वैसे ही उनके लिए क्या है, मनुष्य. ऐसा. And same way, when the heavenly pleasure is compared to the pleasure of the spiritual world, it is so insignificant. But in a covered consciousness, we delight in that. We see, people, they like what? They'll not like satoguni food, which actually is good. But you give them, rajoguni with so much spices, so much chili and all. And then they like, Prabhuji, maza aa gaya, current lag gaya. They say like that, na, current lag gaya. मतलब उनको क्या झटका ही चाहिए, इतने झटके खाए हैं कि बिना झटके के उनको समझ में ही नहीं आता कि आनंद है. But he's telling that if one strives to be happy by connecting to Krishna, actually it is a true happiness. Time and again we hear about it, but again and again our mind pushes us for material enjoyment only. But what is difficulty, both cannot go together. You cannot say प्रभु जी जब मुझे स्पिरिचुअल हैप्पीनेस मिलेगी तो मैं दे दूंगा ना मटेरियल हैप्पीनेस, बट आपको स्पिरिचुअल हैप्पीनेस पाने के लिए मटेरियल हैप्पीनेस को छोड़ना पड़ेगा ना प्रभु। लेकिन हम क्या चाहते हैं, दोनों करते रहेंगे, जब कुछ आ जाएगा तो छोड़ देंगे। कृष्ण बोलते पहले छोड़ो, हम बोलते पहले दो। इसलिए दोनों में क्या है, टग ऑफ वॉर चल रहा है। वो ना कृष्ण की तरह हम जी पा रहे हैं, ना अपने तरह जी पा रहे हैं। So Prabhupada says we have already tried so many times trying to enjoy. At least one life we should give to Krishna. One life, see if I live as per how Krishna wants, and then see what happens. So now you see Dhruv Maharaj, after speaking this, then he is expressing his desires that, my dear Lord, what actually I want. So he is speaking this. Bhakte mohu pravahatam tvai me prasango भूयादनंत महताम अमलाशयानाम येनाञ्जसालोबनम् उरुव्यसनं भवाद्धिम् नेष्ये भवद्गुण कथामृतपानमत्तः। See what is telling, my dear Lord, please bless so that I can associate with your devotees, so that I can engage in your loving service constantly. This is his prayer. And you'll find in Bhagavatam, all devotees are praying like this only. Parishit Maharaj also is praying like this only. Prascha bhuyat bhagavati aramte. That, my dear Lord, if I have to take birth again, keep me in the association of devotees. Prahlad Maharaj is telling, my dear Lord, more than you, I need association of devotees. Why? So that I can cultivate this desire. See, Krishna can come today also. But if we don't have desire to have Krishna, even if Krishna comes, we will not feel that need for Krishna. We will not be able to understand him, we will not be able to serve him. So, spiritual life means removing material desires and cultivating spiritual desires. Till now, in so many lives, we were cultivating material desires. But now we have to cultivate spiritual desires. So, like that, Prahlad Maharaj is telling. Here, this Chitraketu Maharaj is telling, remembering the great trouble found in the field of activities performed for fruitive results, remembering how one receives the reverse of the results one desires, whether from material action or from the fruitive activities recommended in the Vedic literatures, an intelligent person should cease from the desire for fruitive actions. Very amazing, he is saying. What he is saying, avidya kama karma bhi, you have material desire and you are working hard for fulfillment of that material desire. He is telling, even if you go Vedic way, if you are working hard to enjoy in the material world, which is mentioned in the Vedas, as per the Vedas, still you will not get the result which you want. What is mentioned here, you will get the reverse of the result. He is telling, everyone has seen that when one works hard to fulfill his material desires, so the kind of fruity activities he does with expectation of happiness, instead of happiness, he gets a distress. And he's telling, so intelligent person should give up desire for fruitive activities, fruitive action. If you closely see, we think that I will do this, then I'll become happy. And we do this, happiness does not come. Distress increases more. One time what happened, there was a sadhu, so he got one ant in his beard and he was doing meditation. So again and again ant was disturbing him. So he was becoming affected by it. So he thought what to do. So there was a tree nearby. So he touches his beard to the tree thinking that this ant will go from here to there. But instead of one ant going from here to there, many more ants from the tree came in the beard. Then he so in the Upanishad it is mentioned solving material problems in material world is like this. You try to solve one material problem, so many material problems they increase. So material problems they don't have material solution. So same thing is telling people work very hard to solve them, but they get opposite results only. So those who are intelligent people, they'll stop working hard for sense gratification. Actually, what all these verses which are mentioned in the Vedas, for understanding them, you need very high level of consciousness. You know, those who are trying to enjoy in the material world, who are running after the sense objects, may not understand how this is happening. But the more you grow, then you will understand, my Lord, what he's saying is actually true. You know, people they start working hard and then they get the opposite result. On the other hand, if one acts without desire for fruitive activities and engages in the devotion service, he can achieve the highest goal of life, that is freedom from miserable conditions. Considering this, one should cease material desire. चेतकेतु महाराज बोल रहे हैं कि आपने भौतिक इच्छाओं को पूर्ति करने का प्रयास किया और उससे आपको विपरीत फल मिला। दूसरी तरफ अगर आप भगवान के लिए इच्छा करते हो और सेवा करते हो तो आपको हाईएस्ट गोल मिल सकता है। वो क्या है? सारी मिजरी से छुटकारा मिल सकता है। तो अगर कोई बुद्धिमान व्यक्ति है तो क्या करेगा? भौतिक इच्छाओं को त्याग देगा और भगवान के लिए भक्ति की इच्छा करेगा। लेकिन अगर हम बुद्धिमान नहीं है तो क्या होगा? हम वही भौतिक इच्छाओं के पीछे भागते रहेंगे। सी मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में आप कुछ भी प्राप्त कीजिए, आपको दुख ही मिलेगा। आप बहुत बड़े नेता भी बन जाइए, प्रधानमंत्री बन जाइए, फिर लोग बोलेंगे अरे क्या है ये, सही तरीके से नियम नहीं बनाता है, ये अंबानी अडानी के लिए काम करता है, ये है वो है, ऐसा लोग बोलते हैं। करेक्ट? नो मैटर हाउ मच यू वर्क हार्ड, अ पर्सन में वर्क हार्ड फॉर फैमिली मेंबर्स एंड देन दे विल से हमारे पापा ने ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं किया हमारे लिए। वाइफ सेज यू नो, उनको देखो क्या लेके आते हैं, सिलिकन साड़ी लेके आए हैं और तुम जो है कॉटन का ही पहनाते हो मेरे को। पर्सन फील्स बाप रे 24 घंटा तो मेहनत कर रहा हूँ, इनको और कैसे खुश करूं मैं? बिकॉज मटेरियल थिंग्स कैन नॉट मेक एनी वन हैप्पी, नाइदर वी नॉर अदर्स। Prabhupada says Mahatma Gandhi worked so hard for the nation, and what nation gave to Mahatma Gandhi? He was shot dead, and he is a father of the nation, and we have killed our father. Very special, no? India made him father of the nation, and we have killed him. So if a person does not understand and still works very hard, then he becomes a loser only. See, while trying to get them, there is misery. After getting them, there is a misery, and eventually we have to lose them when we die. You know, in the previous life also, we might be emperors of such a big empires, but now where is that empire? Everything is taken away from us. We may have had big families in the previous lives, but where are they? They are being taken away. So that's what Chitketu Maharaj is telling. If someone is intelligent, then he can understand why to pursue hard for material things. And Prahlad Maharaj also says same thing, that why to work hard for material things? Whatever is supposed to come, anyways they will come. And whatever is supposed to go, anyways it will go. And if you work hard, then in coming and in going, they will give you distress. So what Prahlad Maharaj says is that whatever material things are supposed to come, they will come. And whatever is supposed to go, they will go. But if you work hard, then what will happen is when they come, you will suffer. When they go, you will suffer. So he says, you work hard for Krishna so that you can have this highest goal of life to go back to Godhead. Actually, time and again, our mind convinces us to enjoy in the material world. But if we read these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, these teachings from Srimad Bhagavatam, and try to work only for pleasure of Krishna, at least in this life, if we give this life that no matter what happens, this life I want to die living for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And then you see how Krishna reciprocates with you. Then you see what all Krishna gives you. And Krishna is such a lovable Lord. If any devotee is trying to serve exclusively Krishna for his pleasure, then Krishna will award him everything. We see those devotees who dedicate their life in the service of the Lord, how much Krishna gives them. They get everything, you know. So Krishna, and when they die, Krishna gives them realizations. So the devotees, when they are about to die, they experience a very high level of Krishna consciousness, and they are happy to leave this world. So that is joy of Krishna consciousness. So we also have to see that we don't cultivate these material desires, knowing well that cultivating these material desires will further entangle my existence here. Prabhupada says at one place, if you have a desire to eat even gulab jamun, you have to take birth again to eat gulab jamun. How many of you like some particular sweet? So we all have to come back to eat that particular sweet until we purify ourselves of that particular desire. So you see, as a reciprocation of desires, Krishna keeps awarding us so many bodies like that. So we have to know. First is we have to understand material desires are not good for me. And then we have to actively work to be purified of them and to cultivate desire for Krishna pleasure. Okay, so we'll end here. We'll continue this some other time. This whole section till 63 verse is very nice. Hare Krishna. Shila Prabhupada ki jai.